She was supposed to be invisible, just another maid clearing champagne glasses. Seoul's Hanamdong district, where Korea's wealthiest gathered for charity galas that raised millions, money laundered through legitimate causes, politicians shaking hands with crime lords in $1,000 suits. Everyone knew Min Eui-Joo, not just as Sim Soo-ho's mother, but as the woman who'd survived 3 decades in Korea's underworld without losing her grace or her edge. She was mid-sentence with a city councilman when it happened. Her hand flew to her chest. Her breath caught. The jade bracelet, 4 generations old, hit the marble floor with a sound like breaking glass. While security guards froze and society ladies reached for their phones to film, Tamsyn moved. White uniform, neat braids already coming loose, hands that cleaned toilets now pumping a woman's chest with perfect rhythm. Her knees screamed against marble. Champagne soaked through her vest, her arms burned. But she didn't stop. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, repeat. The crowd parted before he even spoke. Sim Soo-ho, tall enough to see over everyone, dressed in black like he was attending a funeral, eyes that could cut steel scanning for whoever dared hurt his mother, until they landed on the maid still kneeling, still holding her hand. Min Eui-Joo's eyes fluttered open, oxygen mask fogging, paramedics hovering. Her first words weren't "thank you." They were, "She is the one, my son will marry her." The ballroom erupted. Cameras flashed, and Tamsyn's soul left her body. In that moment, everything changed. Tamsyn went from invisible to unforgettable, from safe to hunted, from nobody to the woman every crime syndicate in Seoul would want to exploit or eliminate, all because she did what everyone else was afraid to do. She acted like a human being instead of a spectator. Before we dive into this thrilling story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Where are you watching from? Like and comment. The Grand Hyatt ballroom glittered like a jewel box, crystal chandeliers, silk-draped tables, champagne flowing like water. Tamsyn moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, her white uniform crisp, her braids neat, her smile polite and forgettable. She'd learned early, in rooms like this, being invisible kept you safe. Min Eui-Joo stood near the orchestra, elegant in a midnight blue hanbok embroidered with silver thread. She was laughing at something a city councilman said, her hand resting gracefully on a jade-topped walking stick. 72 years old and still commanded every room she entered. Then her laugh cut short. Her hand flew to her chest. The walking stick clattered to the floor. Her knees buckled. The councilman stumbled backward, useless. A woman screamed. Phones appeared instantly, not to call for help, but to film. Because this was Seoul high society, where tragedy was content and helping was someone else's job. Tamsyn's tray hit a nearby table. She was moving before her brain caught up, dropping to her knees beside the gasping woman. No pulse at the wrist, lips turning gray. Classic cardiac arrest. "Someone call an ambulance," Tamsyn shouted, ripping open Min Eui-Joo's hanbok collar. Her nursing program training kicked in like muscle memory. Hands positioned center chest. 30 compressions, hard and fast. She counted aloud, sweat already beading on her forehead. Around her, the crowd pressed closer, watching, whispering, filming. No one helped. 2 breaths into Min Eui-Joo's mouth. 30 more compressions. Tamsyn's arms screamed. Her champagne-soaked uniform clung to her skin. She didn't care. This woman was someone's mother, someone's grandmother. "Move, now." The voice cut through the ballroom like a blade. The crowd parted instantly, and Tamsyn looked up to see him. Sim Soo-ho, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black like death itself. His face was carved stone, but his eyes were panic barely leashed. He dropped beside his mother, hand hovering over her like he didn't know how to touch something so fragile. "Keep going," he said to Tamsyn, voice rough. She did 30 compressions, 2 breaths, her vision blurred with effort. Paramedics burst through the crowd. Oxygen mask, defibrillator pads. The shock made Min Eui-Joo's body arch. Once, twice. Then a beep, steady, rhythmic. Heart monitor singing the most beautiful sound Tamsyn had ever heard. Min Eui-Joo's eyes fluttered open behind the oxygen mask. Her gaze found Tamsyn immediately. This young black woman in a stained uniform, braids falling loose, hands still shaking. The older woman reached up, pulling the mask aside despite the paramedics' protest. Her voice was weak, but absolutely certain. "She is the one," Min Eui-Joo whispered, gripping Tamsyn's wrist with surprising strength. "My son will marry her." The ballroom exploded. Gasps. Camera flashes like lightning. Someone dropped a glass. Tamsyn's face went numb. "Ma'am, you don't." But Min Eui-Joo smiled, squeezed her hand, and let the paramedics take her. Soo-ho stood slowly, staring at Tamsyn like she'd just detonated a bomb in his carefully controlled world. She had. The black sedan pulled through gates that looked like they could withstand a military assault. Tamsyn sat in the back seat, still in her stained uniform, watching Seoul's glittering skyline disappear behind high stone walls and ancient trees. "I really don't need to be here," she said for the third time. The driver, massive, tattooed, silent, didn't respond. The Sim compound sprawled like a small village. Traditional hanok buildings with curved tile roofs surrounded a central courtyard. Lanterns glowed beneath wooden beams. Armed men in dark suits stood at every corner, watching her with expressions she couldn't read. Tamsyn's throat went dry. What had she walked into? A housekeeper in a formal hanbok met her at the entrance, bowing so low Tamsyn felt embarrassed. "This way, please." Inside, everything smelled of incense and old wood. Scrolls lined the walls. A massive portrait of a stern-faced man, Soo-ho's father, she guessed, dominated the main hall. "Miss Tamsyn." Min Eui-Joo sat in a low-backed chair, still pale but smiling. An IV drip hung beside her, medications lined up on a nearby table. "You came." "They didn't really give me a choice, ma'am." The older woman laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Sit, we'll have tea." "You just had a heart attack. You should be resting." "I'll rest when I'm dead. Sit." Tamsyn sat. The tea ceremony was quiet, deliberate, nothing like the chaos of the gala. Min Eui-Joo's hands shook slightly as she poured, but her movements held decades of practice. She asked gentle questions. Where was Tamsyn from? Did she have family? What brought her to Seoul? Tamsyn answered carefully, aware of eyes watching from doorways, aware that every word mattered in ways she didn't understand yet. "You have kind hands," Min Eui-Joo said suddenly. "My husband used to say you can tell everything about a person by their hands. Yours are strong, capable, but gentle." "Ma'am, about what you said at the gala." "I meant every word." Tamsyn's stomach dropped. "You don't even know me." "I know you saved my life when everyone else was too afraid or too selfish to move." Min Eui-Joo's eyes softened. "That tells me everything I need to know." Dinner was elaborate. Dishes Tamsyn couldn't name, served on delicate porcelain. She ate quietly, trying not to embarrass herself with unfamiliar chopsticks. Then he appeared, Soo-ho standing in the doorway like a storm cloud. "A word," he said to Tamsyn. She followed him to a private room. He closed the door, turned, and for the first time since the gala, looked directly at her. "You saved my mother's life," he said, voice flat. "I'm grateful, truly." Tamsyn waited. "But don't mistake gratitude for acceptance. My mother acts on emotion. I act on reality. And the reality is you don't belong in this world." "I never said I wanted to belong here." His jaw tightened. "Good, then we understand each other." 2 hours later, Tamsyn stood in her tiny Seoul apartment, door locked, heart still racing. She stripped off the ruined uniform and stared at herself in the mirror. She'd never see them again. It was over. She was sure of it. 3 days. Tamsyn managed 3 normal days before everything unraveled. At work, guests stared, whispered. One woman actually took a photo of her while she was cleaning a bathroom. The hotel manager called her into his office with an expression that said he'd rather be anywhere else. "We've had inquiries about you," he said carefully. "From media, from other parties, perhaps you should take some time off." Translation: "You're a liability. Disappear." Tamsyn nodded, numb. She was walking home through Itaewon's crowded streets when she noticed the car. Black sedan, tinted windows, following her for 3 blocks now, moving slowly through traffic. Her pulse hammered. She ducked into a convenience store, pretending to browse ramyeon while watching the street through the window. The car stopped, waited. Tamsyn pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Who did she even call? The police. And say what? A car was driving on a public street. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't go outside, Suho's voice, cold, controlled. Stay where you are. How did you? I've had men watching you since the gala. The black car isn't mine. Her stomach dropped. 2 minutes, he said and hung up. He arrived in 90 seconds. Different car, same lethal presence. He walked into the convenience store like he owned it, grabbed her arm, not roughly but firmly, and guided her outside. The black sedan was gone. Get in, Suho said, opening the passenger door of his vehicle. She got in. He drove in silence for 5 minutes before speaking. My mother's heart attack wasn't natural. Toxicology came back positive for digitalis poisoning. Slow acting, meant to look like cardiac arrest. Tamsyn's hands went cold. Someone tried to murder her. Someone succeeded in making her vulnerable, and now you're all over Korean media as the maid who saved the Mafia queen. He glanced at her. Do you understand what that means? I'm visible. You're a target. Every rival syndicate now knows your face, knows you matter to my mother, to me. I don't matter to you. You made that clear. His jaw tightened. What I said and what's true are different things. Perception is reality in my world, and they perceive you as my weakness. I'm not your anything. Tell that to the Choice Syndicate. Tell that to the men who were in that black car. He pulled over abruptly, turning to face her. You have a younger sister, 19, university student in Chicago. How long do you think it takes to put a plane ticket in someone's hands? Ice flooded her veins. You're threatening my sister. I'm telling you what my enemies will do if you stay exposed. His voice dropped. You're moving into the compound. Tonight, it's not a request. You can't just... I am. He started driving again. Pack 1 bag, essentials only. We leave in 30 minutes. Her apartment felt smaller than ever. Tamsyn threw clothes into a duffel bag, jeans, shirts, her worn hoodie. A photo of her and her sister, laughing in a photo booth. Her hands shook so badly she could barely zip the bag. She texted her sister, I'm okay. Situation complicated. We'll call soon. I love you. When Suho knocked, she opened the door with her bag already in hand. Ready? He asked. No, she thought, but she nodded anyway. Because ready or not, her invisible life was over. The guest room was bigger than her entire apartment. Silk bedding, carved wooden furniture, a view of the courtyard garden where a stone lantern glowed through the darkness. Tamsyn sat on the edge of the bed, still fully dressed, and tried not to think about the armed guards outside her door. Guest, prisoner, future family member. She didn't know which she was. The household staff bowed when she passed but wouldn't meet her eyes. The guards tracked her movements but never spoke. She existed in a strange limbo, too important to ignore, too foreign to accept. Min Eui-Joo became her lifeline. Annyeonghaseyo, the older woman said slowly, sitting across from Tamsyn in the sunny morning room. It means hello, try it. Tamsyn's pronunciation was terrible. Min Eui-Joo laughed, not unkindly, and corrected her gently. They spent mornings like this. Korean phrases, family history, stories about Suho as a boy, serious even then, carrying weight no child should carry. His father died when he was 17, Min Eui-Joo said quietly, fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. Shot in our driveway while Suho watched. He became a man that night, became cold. I watched my gentle boy disappear into someone I barely recognized. I'm sorry, Tamsyn whispered. This world takes everything soft and burns it away. Min Eui-Joo met her eyes. That's why I need someone like you, someone who hasn't been burned yet. I'm not strong enough for this. Strength isn't about not being afraid, child. It's about staying anyway. Nights were harder. Tamsyn lay awake, listening to footsteps patrol the grounds, phones buzzing with urgent conversations she couldn't understand. This house was calm on the surface, but underneath, violence waited like a held breath. She couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m, she slipped outside to the garden, needing air that didn't feel so heavy with expectations. She found Soo-ho standing before a stone memorial, hands in his pockets, shoulders rigid. His father's name was carved in both Korean and English. The dates were too close together. "Can't sleep either," she asked quietly. He didn't turn. "I come here when decisions need to be made." "What decision are you making now? Whether keeping you here is protection or just another kind of danger." Tamsyn stepped closer. "I don't want to be here," she admitted. The words came out raw, honest. "I know." His voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. "I don't want to need your protection. I don't want to be part of whatever war you're fighting. I just want my normal life back." "I know," he repeated. Then he finally looked at her, and something in his expression cracked. "But normal doesn't exist for you anymore. Not after the gala. Not after your face became known." "So what? I just stay here forever." "Until I eliminate the threat. Until you're safe." He paused. "You're safer here than anywhere else. I know that's not comfort, but it's truth." Tamsyn wrapped her arms around herself against the night chill. "Your mother thinks I can save you somehow. From what?" Soo-ho's laugh was quiet and broken. "From becoming exactly like the man who raised me." He walked back toward the house, leaving her alone with the memorial stone and the weight of impossible expectations. But for the first time since arriving, Tamsyn understood. They were both prisoners here, just in different ways. The dining room was formal and oppressive, long dark table, expensive porcelain, 6 of Soo-ho's lieutenants seated like statues in tailored suits. Tamsyn sat beside Min Eui-Joo, acutely aware she was the only woman, the only outsider, the only person who didn't belong. The men spoke in rapid Korean, discussing things Tamsyn couldn't follow. Business, territory, threats she didn't have names for yet. Soup arrived first. Miokguk seaweed soup Min Eui-Joo had taught her, traditional, nourishing. Tamsyn lifted her spoon, then stopped. Something was wrong. The smell, faint, underneath the sesame oil and garlic, bitter, medicinal, and on the surface, an oily film that caught the light strangely, swirling in patterns that didn't match the soup's consistency. Her nursing instructor's voice echoed in her head. "Trust your instincts. Poison often announces itself in small ways." "Don't eat that," Tamsyn said sharply, grabbing Min Eui-Joo's wrist as the older woman raised her spoon. The table went silent. Soo-ho's eyes snapped to her. "What?" "The soup, something's wrong with it." Tamsyn's heart hammered. "Look at the surface, that film, and smell it, there's a bitter undertone." One of the lieutenants scoffed. "The maid thinks she's a food critic now." But Soo-ho was already standing, moving to his mother's bowl. He leaned close, inhaled, then his entire body went rigid. "Nobody eats," he said quietly, the kind of quiet that preceded violence. "Nobody moves." He pulled out his phone, made one call. "Test the soup, all of it now." 2 men in gloves arrived within minutes, carefully collecting samples. The dining room remained frozen, lieutenants exchanging glances, Min Eui-Joo pale and shaking, Tamsyn trying to keep her breathing steady. 15 minutes later, the call came. Soo-ho answered, listened, then hung up. His face was carved from stone, but his eyes were murder. "Ricin," he said, "enough to kill everyone at this table within 48 hours. The room erupted. Accusations, denials, chaos. "Lock it down," Soo-ho ordered. "No one leaves the compound. No one. Begin interrogations immediately." The lieutenants were escorted out by armed guards. The dining room emptied until only Soo-ho, his mother, and Tamsyn remained. Min Eui-Joo reached for Tamsyn's hand, squeezing hard. "Twice now. You've saved me twice." "Someone inside did this," Tamsyn whispered. "Someone you trust." "Trusted," Suho corrected, voice like ice. Past tense. He spent the next 4 hours in the security room. Tamsyn could hear raised voices, doors slamming, the terrible silence between interrogations. She was in her room, trying not to imagine what was happening, when her door opened. Suho stood there, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, exhaustion and fury carved into every line of his face. You keep saving my family, he said, voice rough. First my mother's life, now again, you had no obligation, no reason to care. I'm a nursing student. I'm trained to notice these things. You're more than that. He stepped inside, closing the door. For the first time since she'd met him, his expression held something other than ice. Maybe my mother was right about you. Right about what? That you see things others miss, that you act when others freeze. He paused. That you belong here even if neither of us wanted it. Tamsyn's throat tightened. Did you find who did it? Yes. And he won't threaten anyone again. She didn't ask what that meant, didn't want to know. Suho turned to leave, then stopped. Thank you, he said quietly, for caring when you didn't have to. The door closed behind him. And Tamsyn sat in the silence, realizing something terrifying. She was starting to care about these people. Starting to want to stay. Tamsyn woke to silence. Not the normal compound silence, the kind of silence that follows violence. She stayed in her room until mid-morning, when Min Eui-Joo knocked softly and entered with tea. It's done, the older woman said simply. The traitor has been dealt with. Tamsyn's hands trembled around the cup. Who was it? Kim Yi-won, lieutenant, 10 years of service. Min Eui-Joo's voice was steady, but her eyes held old grief. He sold us to the Choi Syndicate. Your arrival, my routine, the gala schedule, all of it. He's the one who poisoned you the first time. Yes. Where is he now? Min Eui-Joo met her eyes. Gone, that's all you need to know. Suho appeared in the garden that afternoon, finding Tamsyn sitting beneath a persimmon tree, trying to make sense of a world where betrayal ended in blood. He sat beside her without asking. For a long moment, neither spoke. In my world, loyalty is everything, he finally said. It's currency, it's survival, it's the only thing that keeps this fragile empire from collapsing. And Kim broke that. He sold my mother's life for money. There's no forgiveness for that. Suho turned to her. But you didn't have to be loyal to us. You could have disappeared after the gala, refused to come here, walked away a dozen times. You didn't give me much choice. I gave you more than you think. His voice softened. You stayed, and you protected my mother again without hesitation, without thought for yourself. That makes you more valuable than most of the men who work for me. Tamsyn's chest tightened. I'm not valuable, I'm just... You're exactly what this family needs, even if I fought against seeing it. She looked at him then, really looked. Exhaustion shadowed his eyes. Blood stained the cuff of his shirt, hastily cleaned but still visible. He carried death on his shoulders like a coat he couldn't take off. I overheard you, she said quietly. Earlier, telling your men I'm under your protection permanently. His jaw flexed. You were listening. Your walls aren't soundproof. She stood, needing distance. What does that mean, permanently? Suho rose too, stepping closer. It means anyone who touches you answers to me. It means you don't leave this compound without my knowledge. It means I'm a prisoner. It means you're safe. Those aren't the same thing. In my world, they are. His voice hardened. Do you understand what the Choi Syndicate would do if they got their hands on you? What they'd use you for? You terrify me, Tamsyn whispered. Good, fear keeps you careful. No, she met his eyes. You don't understand. You terrify me because I'm starting to trust you. Because when you walked into that convenience store, I felt relief. Because when you sit here and talk about protecting me, I believe you. Her voice broke. And that terrifies me more than anything else in this world. The air between them changed, charged, heavy with something neither had named yet. Suho reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement. His hand found hers, not grabbing, not commanding, just holding. "I've never protected something I wanted to keep before," he said quietly. "Only things I needed to control. You're teaching me the difference." His thumb brushed across her knuckles, the first deliberately gentle touch he'd ever given her. Tamsyn didn't pull away. And somewhere in that garden, between violence and tenderness, between fear and trust, something irrevocable shifted between them. Min Eui-Joo came to Tamsyn's room at dawn, dressed in a formal hanbok the color of celadon jade. "Come with me," she said gently. "There's something I need to do." The shrine room was tucked in the oldest part of the compound, walls lined with ancestral tablets and faded photographs of stern-faced men and elegant women. Incense burned in brass holders. Morning light filtered through rice paper screens. Tamsyn felt like an intruder. "Sit," Min Eui-Joo said, gesturing to a silk cushion. She did, while the older woman lit candles before each tablet, whispering prayers in Korean that Tamsyn couldn't understand but felt in her bones. Finally, Min Eui-Joo turned and knelt before her. "When I first woke after the heart attack," she began, "I saw your face above mine, and for a moment I thought I was seeing myself, young, afraid, standing at the edge of a world I didn't understand." Tamsyn's throat tightened. "I was 23 when I married into the Sim family, a nobody, a seamstress's daughter. I didn't speak the language of power, didn't know how to navigate violence." Min Eui-Joo's eyes glistened. "But I learned, and I survived, and I fought every single day to keep my humanity in a world designed to burn it away." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I see the same fight in you." The older woman reached into her hanbok and withdrew a small silk pouch. "My mother-in-law gave me this on my wedding day. She said, 'This ring goes to women who refuse to break, even when breaking would be easier.'" She opened the pouch. The ring was ancient, jade carved into delicate flowers, set in gold worn smooth by generations of hands. It caught the candlelight like captured water. "4 generations," Min Eui-Joo whispered. 4 women who stood beside dangerous men and somehow kept their souls intact. "I can't." "You can, you already have." Min Eui-Joo took Tamsyn's left hand. "This ring goes to the woman who will stand beside my son when the world tries to break him, when his enemies come, when his own darkness threatens to swallow him whole." She slid the ring onto Tamsyn's finger. It fit perfectly. Tamsyn stared at it, vision blurring. "I'm not married to him. We're not." "You're already part of this family. The ceremony will come later. But the bond," Min Eui-Joo cupped Tamsyn's face. "That happened the moment you dropped to your knees and saved a stranger's life." Tears spilled over, not from fear, not from obligation, but from the overwhelming, terrifying weight of being chosen, being claimed, being wanted. "My mother died when I was 16, Tamsyn whispered. "My father remarried and forgot I existed. I've been alone so long I forgot what belonging felt like." "You're not alone anymore, child." Min Eui-Joo pulled her into an embrace, and Tamsyn broke. Sobbed against the older woman's shoulder while incense smoke curled around them, and 4 generations of women watched from faded photographs. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Good, fear means you understand what's at stake." Min Eui-Joo stroked her braids. "But you're not running, and that makes you worthy of this ring." When they finally emerged from the shrine room, Suho was waiting in the courtyard. His eyes went immediately to Tamsyn's hand, to the ring. His mother smiled. "It's done." And Tamsyn realized with startling clarity, there was no going back now. She belonged to this family. For better or worse. The changes started small. A protection racket in Gangnam that targeted immigrant-owned businesses, shut down. A contract involving a trafficking route through Busan, refused despite the money. Suho's lieutenants exchanged confused glances during meetings, but no one questioned him openly. Tamsyn noticed everything. She'd been at the compound for 6 weeks now, long enough to understand the rhythms of this world. Morning meetings in Suho's office, phone calls in languages she was slowly learning. The careful dance between legitimate business and the empire built in shadows. But something was shifting. You turned down the Incheon deal, she said one evening, finding him in the garden where they'd started meeting without acknowledging it was intentional. Soo-ho didn't look surprised, she knew. It involved moving girls from the Philippines, 14, 15 years old. You've never cared about that before. I've never had a reason to look closely before. He turned to her. I looked at this world through your eyes and realized I've been building something I'd be ashamed to explain to you. Tamsyn's breath caught. So you're changing it? I'm trying to. Exhaustion lined his face. My father built this empire on fear and blood. I inherited that, expanded it, never questioned whether there was another way. And now I have someone who looks at me like I could be more than the monster this world made me. His voice dropped. It makes me want to prove her right. Over the following weeks, Tamsyn watched the transformation unfold. Soo-ho divested from operations that preyed on the vulnerable, invested in legitimate construction companies, tech startups, real estate. He still ran an empire. He couldn't dismantle everything without starting a war, but he was drawing ethical lines that hadn't existed before. I'm building an exit, he told her late one night in his office, spreadsheets and contracts spread across his desk. Not for me. That ship sailed when I was 17 and picked up my father's gun, but for what comes after. After. Our children shouldn't inherit blood debts. He said it casually, but the word hung between them. Our. We're not, Tamsyn started. We will be, Soo-ho met her eyes. My mother claimed you that night. I resisted it, fought it, told myself you were a complication I didn't need. He stood, moving closer. But you're not a complication. You're the future I didn't know I could want. You're planning for children we don't have. I'm planning for a life where my son doesn't watch me die in a driveway, where my daughter doesn't grow up wondering if love and violence are the same thing. His hand found hers, thumb brushing over the jade ring. I'm planning for us. The word settled into Tamsyn's chest, warm and terrifying. Us. Not just survival. Not just protection, but a future, together. This is insane, she whispered. Probably. Your world is still dangerous, still violent. Cleaning up the edges doesn't change what you are. No, but it changes what we could become. He cupped her face gently. I'm not asking you to love the monster. I'm asking if you'll help me become something else. Tamsyn looked at him. This man who'd terrified her, protected her, changed because she existed in his world. I'm already helping, she said quietly. I have been since the moment I stayed. And she realized with startling clarity, she wasn't just surviving in his world anymore. She was changing it. They both were. 6 months after the gala, Min Eui-Joo declared a family celebration. Tamsyn had learned to read the older woman's schemes by now. What are you planning? Nothing, Min Eui-Joo said far too innocently. Just dinner, family only. The dining room glowed with candles. The same room where Tamsyn had stopped the poisoning now held warmth instead of threat. She sat beside Min Eui-Joo, wearing a hanbok the older woman had gifted her, deep burgundy silk that made her skin luminous. She spoke conversational Korean now, understood the hierarchy of bows and honorifics. The household staff no longer avoided her eyes. They sought her opinions on menu planning, asked about her sister's university studies, treated her like she'd always belonged. She was no longer invisible. She was essential. Soo-ho sat across from her, watching with an expression she'd learned to recognize, the softness he only showed in private, the vulnerability he was still learning to carry. Midway through dinner, he stood. The room went quiet. 6 months ago, he began in Korean, then switched to English for her. My mother made a declaration that I thought was impossible, absurd. Tamsyn's heart started racing. She saw something I was too stubborn to see, that this woman, he gestured to Tamsyn, would change everything. He moved around the table and did something that stopped Tamsyn's breath. He knelt before her in the traditional manner, back straight, hands on his thighs. Sim Soo-ho, his mother whispered, eyes shining. I'm not asking you to marry me because my mother commanded it 6 months ago, he said, voice steady. I'm not asking because you saved her life, or because you've protected this family, or because you wear my family's ring. He reached for her hand. I'm asking because you looked at the worst parts of me and didn't run, because you challenged me to be better, because when I plan the future now, I can't imagine it without you in it. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking if you'll build something new with me. Tamsyn's vision blurred. You're doing this in front of your mother. She's family, your family. There's no one else I need. 6 months ago, she would have said no, would have run, would have protected herself from a world she didn't understand. But she understood it now, understood him. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, but on one condition. Suho waited. You never make me small again, not to protect me, not to keep me safe, not for any reason. I promise, he said immediately. You were never meant to be small. I just needed time to understand that. He slipped a second ring onto her finger, diamonds and platinum, modern beside the ancient jade. Min Eui-Joo was openly crying. Finally, I told you, didn't I tell you? The wedding happened 3 weeks later in the compound's traditional hall. Tamsyn wore the crimson and gold hanbok Min Eui-Joo had commissioned, but her braids were adorned with gold thread and small jade flowers, a bridge between worlds. Korean and American guests filled the hall. Her sister flew in from Chicago, crying through the entire ceremony. Min Eui-Joo sat in the place of honor, radiating satisfaction. And Suho, standing beside Tamsyn in traditional hanbok, looked at her like she'd hung the moon. You changed everything, he whispered during the ceremony. We changed everything, she corrected. Because that was the truth. She didn't just save a life that night at the gala. She saved herself from a life of invisibility. And she gave a violent man permission to become something better. Together, they were building something new. A family not bound by blood and violence, but by choice. And that made all the difference. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. Where in the world are you turning in from? Let me know in the comments so we can connect and share our thoughts. I appreciate the time you spent here with me today.